Hi, I'm Sean, and I'm here to talk to you today about cloud security monitoring. DefenseStorm is a cloud security company, and we monitor lots of different things, the cloud, on-premise, all that sort of stuff. So real quick, I just wanted to talk about kind of traditional security on-prem. This is like in your office or in your data center. You have a lot of different stuff. You have like a firewall, Cisco, security policies, two-factor authentication, all that kind of stuff. The stuff that humans do, antivirus, obviously, anti-malware, intrusion detection, log collection, alerting, software updates, phishing training, threat intelligence, access control, endpoint security, two-factor auth, memory forensics. This is all of the stuff that the best companies will do to secure, your laptops, the stuff in your office, the stuff in your data center. But one question I'd like to ask is just, where's the data? And often the data is here, right? The data is away in the cloud doing, its own thing. And all of those security solutions really don't even touch this. But the definition I like to use for the cloud, because it's kind of this, just like cloud's kind of amorphous, is just someone else's computer, right? It's not anything magical, it's not special, it's just somebody else's computer that you're paying for. You're paying for a service on top of using their computer resources. So some examples. What's in the cloud? What products do we normally use that are in the cloud? So cloud computing, this is Amazon Web Services, Microsoft's Azure, Google Cloud. A lot of people are moving to this model because it's cheaper, it's more dynamic, you can easily scale your service. You might have your email and Office suite in there, so like Gmail, Office 365, there's a bunch of mail providers out there now. I consider those cloud services. Instant messaging, so Skype for Business, Slack, HipChat, the really critical business activities happen through those things nowadays. We share files through them. We actually, if you are in the operations, you might do chat ops, so you actually have a significant amount of control over your network and your business through Slack or HipChat. Security products are often actually moving to the cloud nowadays. So vulnerability scanners like Nessus are actually in the cloud. They might have an endpoint deployed on your network, but they're controlled through the cloud. The reports are there. DNS is often in there too, like if you use OpenDNS or anything like that. All the data is up in the cloud, and it's all kind of tucked away there. And actually, more and more core business applications are also moving into the cloud. So Salesforce is like the definition of like moving your business into the cloud. Help desk software too, knowledge-based software, all that stuff, all that really important things that are actually really a big part of your business are actually in the cloud nowadays. And so when we're talking about cloud security, there's, very good stuff about it. The first thing that I'd like to call out is that the cloud is actually probably more secure than what you could do just on your own. They do a really, really good job of securing it. They're usually the most certified, the most up to date. They keep track of it very well. It's very cheap to do security right. Because you are essentially paying for all of their work that they've already done. As soon as they do it once, as soon as they upgrade their TLS version or something, it's upgraded for everybody. You don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to worry about OpenSSL as much, that sort of thing. Software-defined networking is easy. So something that software-defined networking is actually pretty hard to do on-prem. You have to use expensive products, but in the cloud, this is actually super easy. You can say my database is only allowed to connect to the one client that it talks to, and it's not allowed to connect to anybody else. And then you can change that dynamically. It's really great. You can make really narrow permissions. You can say, okay, well, this user can only download files from this one S3 bucket, and that's all it can ever do. Usually everything is auditable, which is great. Everything gives an audit trail. And two-factor authentication is widely supported, which is obviously good. So now, the less good stuff, the bad. you kind of need to learn everything all over again. It's no longer, oh, my Cisco firewall, my intrusion detection. It's actually now it's different. You have to use Amazon's things or Azure's things. You have to understand how Gmail detects intrusions. It's very easy for attackers to cost you a lot of money. One thing that we see a lot if using either Azure or AWS is somebody who accidentally published their credentials on GitHub, and now they have 600 Bitcoin nodes trying to mine Bitcoin for an attacker all day, and it's costing you $10,000 a day. You're actually still responsible for most of the security of your cloud deployment. It is not all done. You have to securely configure and monitor your cloud. And it's not just the traditional ones. You have to also monitor all of these. Now, you have to monitor Office 365 and Salesforce, and they don't do a lot for you. OK, so now the really bad stuff. Monitoring this for security is actually hard. It's actually kind of not super well documented. It's not easy to know. There's no guides like there has been for on-prem for years. Secure configuration of the cloud is hard. It's not something that is it's not out of the box secure. So you have to actually lock it down. It's easy for attackers to hide. Like AWS is a very big product. Do you always audit every part of your product to make sure that there's not some AWS Lambda function that's a backdoor in your account? It's very dependent on cloud vendors. If your security is dependent on that vendor, now you depend on that vendor for your security. And there's no standards for any of this. It's all just APIs you have to integrate with manually. And so I'd like to make the claim that actually many IT departments aren't prepared to secure their cloud assets. This is something that we've found through multiple of our clients. So why aren't IT departments securing the cloud? The vendors actually don't make it easy to get the logs. I don't know if any of you have tried to get logs from Gmail or anything like that. It's actually not straightforward. It's even hard to find the documentation. And there's lots of vendors. I just listed a small fraction of them, but in this room, we probably use many more. HubSpot, all of those things. We could just name tons and tons of cloud vendors, and they all have different ways to get their data. It requires programming, so it's not syslog anymore. It's actually pretty complicated. You need to use Python or something to pull the things in. Every single one's different. It's new, so people don't know that it's something that they need to do and worry about. And there's a lack of knowledge of exactly which logs are important to collect, what alerts to write based on those logs, and then what to look for. How are intrusions actually being done? And that's just not very widely known. So just examples of possible indicators of compromise on your cloud accounts, like an employee's email account is compromised. Wouldn't you want to know if somebody's logging into one of your employees' Gmail accounts? Of course. Maybe large amounts of internal documents are downloaded from Google Drive all at once, right? They just right-click, download an entire folder. Maybe a new administrator account is created. This is pretty straightforward, but it's something that a lot of actually cloud vendors don't do. They don't inform you by default when this happens. Maybe many login attempts from an unfamiliar IP address, or a sudden increase in cloud computing resources like the Bitcoin example I gave earlier. Or even just something a little more subtle, like a change in user behavior patterns. Normally this user logs into Salesforce and does their normal thing, but now they're suddenly going to this other area and trying to create new users. Why are they doing that? And what I'd like to say is the cloud is really no different. So when we're talking about monitoring it, we want to monitor the things that we've always monitored in network security. So login and logouts, both failed and successful. And we need to routinely audit them to make sure that that is all above board. Data exfiltration. The cloud is actually now harder to detect data exfiltration because those aren't your computers anymore, and the data leaving is not there. So we need to get logs for that. User behavior. What are users normally doing? When are they normally doing it, and why? Access management changes. This is the biggest thing because the narrow permissions of the cloud are great, but we need to then be aware of what all of those access management things are. And this is actually a big one. If you look at blog posts for kind of the state of the art in attacking the cloud, the first thing everybody says is, hey, make sure you turn off AWS CloudTrail or you turn off, the Azure management API reporting because, it's like, why would the attacker want to be logged? So one of the things we monitor for is if the logging is ever turned off, which generates a log message that says the logging was turned off, this is like a Sev 1, why did this happen? Because now we're blind. The thing that is a little different is vendors. It's all vendor specific now. The things that you need to monitor for Gmail and Salesforce are different than AWS and Azure. And anomaly detection is now important because the resources in the cloud are often dynamic. You can't say, well, my one resource, I know exactly what it does, but now you need to classify them by type. So what to look for in cloud security monitoring in a product that's going to do this for you. So it should support all or at least most of your cloud solutions. So it should do every solution you're doing. And then when you are also looking for your cloud solutions, you're looking for maybe a competitor to Salesforce or Gmail, you should be on the lookout for how am I going to get data out of this? What kind of monitoring does it provide? What kind of integrations does it offer? And then how much work is that going to be? Very nice is when it just offers to put all of its logs into like an S3 bucket or offers a simple API. Much worse is when it has a very complicated callback architecture. Those are usually a little harder to integrate with, require you to invest more resources. It should unify the cloud and what we call ground security monitoring. So the ground is everything that's not in the cloud. So your office, if you have any data centers, anything that's not in the cloud. If it all has to be put in one place, that's a very useful thing because attacks often go between the two. Because you might ask, well, how did they get into the cloud? Well, first, somebody downloaded a Microsoft Word document with a macro in it, and that macro gave access to their computer, and then they pivoted into the cloud, and that's how they got all that stuff. So unifying those two things is actually very important. This is an easy one, robust searching and alerting. This is really important because actually there's new types of logs being created by Amazon all the time, and it's nice to be able to kind of investigate what kind of data is out there and what you should be alerting on. And for the alerting piece, it's often the case that data comes in kind of sporadically. It's not often real time. So AWS sometimes has different types of logs that come in once every 60 minutes. And your alerting solution has to be able to deal with that kind of delay in time and be able to understand that it didn't come in right now, that data is actually 60 minutes old. It should have built-in alerts for common cloud indicators of compromise. Like the easiest one is like somebody turned off all the logging. That's a great one. This is a bit of IP, and this is actually kind of a new space. So this isn't often, there's not a really big winner here yet. Anomaly detection is a great thing to have in your cloud security monitoring. There's 3 types that I'd recommend for cloud security monitoring. Geographic, where is this happening? Like your login attempts, are they happening mostly here, or suddenly they're happening in the UK, but you don't have many people in the UK? Behavior is very important. Like I said, in the cloud, everything's more about roles and less about individual machines. And temporal anomaly detection is about time of day. Each business essentially has some kind of rhythm. Either it follows the sun or it is based on some user pattern. But temporal anomaly detection will find anomalies based on like time of day. Normally, we don't have instances starting up in the middle of the night, something like that. Threat intelligence is great because threat intelligence is giving you lists of active bad actors on the internet and what they're doing. So somebody who's doing a lot of SQL injection attempts, it's nice to know that somebody's also trying that against your infrastructure. And so I just want to talk about what we do. We obviously do cloud security monitoring. We unify both ground and cloud. Here's our dashboard. We provide different types of anomaly detection and incident management workflow in our dashboard. We have a really great search API and page. You can throw in all of your firewall, intrusion detection logs, Windows logs in here. You can put custom alerts in, and we have anomaly detection, a whole alert management and incident management workflow where we kind of stack related alerts together so you're not getting overwhelmed with your alerts. And that's it. These are the integrations we have with Amazon, Office 365, Salesforce, all that kind of stuff. All the normal ones, are always adding more. And that's it. So if you use any cloud services, come talk to us about this or about cloud and monitoring and everything, and we'd be happy to chat. Thanks.